The presentation is regarding the globalization of the turning point, Trump's tariffs, financial market impacts, and the reevaluation of, well, the end of history, is it? My goodness. I think it's going to be quite eventful. Thank you.
So we talk about the uncertainty. Now we will talk about the voting uncertainty. But we also have another one in Turkey and from Turkey. So uncertainty is a lifespan for us. So who we are? This one is on the right hand side. Pelin from Yeni University, and we are working together on academic papers, and this one is Bloomberg Turkey, and she is making some programs there, and we are making some programs. We also talk and discuss about these issues in Turkey because it's an topic for us. So when I was first talking about two loans of my life, it was on 2019, and my daughter was born on that day. She also blonde. And I was saying the two blondes of my life because at those days Trump was very active in Twitter, and he was always doing the I will ruin your economy, I will do this there, I will do this to Turkey. And some days he was friends with Erdogan, and he was saying that we are friends, and then he was again ruining our economy and so on. So we had made a paper on this. What is the impact of tweets of Trump on the economy, especially on the steel industry in those days? And we called it like black noise. You know, the white noise in the econometrics, and we called it as black noise. The impact of tweets. So now he came back again, second time, and now he's doing this uncertainty in another way. So we wanted to test again what's the impact to the economy, global economy, and to the markets. This time we took it for the broader range, like Fukuyama's end of history. It's like to flavor the paper a little bit more, and just to tease people about the idea, because according to Fukuyama, the people should end up at some point, and all with the globalization, the world would be a global village, and that's something. But after the Navarro economics and the second, especially I think in the first round he was also doing this, Trump's era, at his first election, he was trying to somehow departure or separate the global economy. It was like now not a global village, but it was like some regional alliances and so on. Of course, there's a logic in this. The thing is, AI is really working well. I wouldn't imagine Fukuyama and Navarro making some boxing match like this. But now the idea is collapsing like with the Navarro economics and with the MAGA economics. It is now like making more regional alliances. So how to do this is one instrument, as we see, is the tariffs, negotiating with the tariffs and somehow trying to push other countries to accept what they want. I mean, this is not only for US, this is relevant for all the strong countries. What we see now is China, US, maybe some EU and emerging economies, how they will be affected by this. This is more macroeconomic and broader range philosophy, but the impact on the financial markets is really different. I mean, it is like making manipulation, not speculation, even making manipulation in the financial markets. So with this idea, this tax cut deregulation, trade protection policies, energy infrastructure investment, all these things are the macroeconomic side and the fundamentals of this approach, but to somehow use the time more efficient, I will skip this part. I just want you to understand the data and just to focus on the results of the econometric model. So here we use, it is miswritten 2-year US bond, S&P 500 index, Brent oils, and the Schengen index. Just to look at how these tariff negotiations or the, how to say, the negotiation news impact the financial markets or different asset markets, let's say, not only the financial markets. Okay. We return a pretty simple return formula here. And at the end of the day, you can see that in the daily returns of financial markets, there are some spikes, especially here, here, and here, where, I mean, those negotiations are more embodied and some rates are explained in the market, like 25%, 50%, or 40%, whatever. And when you look at the calculation, the calculations are a little bit, let's say, roughly calculated. Okay. So bond markets, oil markets. I mean, the least here impacted part is the Chinese markets, because they are somehow not the losers, not the winners, but the ones who doesn't take this play. I mean, they don't play the game as strong ones, because they have production, they have financial markets, they are stronger where they have started. And most of the logic starts here. The train is lost, already gone, but somehow they are trying to catch it. So we have a pretty simple VAR model here, vector autoregressive, and the endogenous variables are the asset markets, and we have a dummy variable as an external exogenous variable, and it is based on the tariff explanations calendar. If on that day there is a tariff explanation, it's just the value 1. If no explanation, it's just the value 0. Of course, we never limit the time period, because the data is from the beginning of 2024 and to April 2025, I think, to the where we started to do the argument. So these are the basic equations. So maybe you may ask why we didn't use tweets, because you would get more information or more explanations about. Because we already had this in 2019. The reason is Trump is not using Twitter as much as he did on his first trip. So even JP Morgan had created a Trump tweet index at those days. But now he's not active on that. So we don't use tweets, first term, second term, and there are some statistical data here. How much he used tweets and how much he doesn't use second term. So we use these tariff events from 2024 November to April 2025. And all these days has 1 is a dummy variable value and 0 as there is no important explanation about the tariffs. So what we see is, as the result of the model, this one is bonds market, this one is Chinese financial markets, and this one is the oil prices, and you can see that their lag values are much more persistent, which means that they have their own dynamics. But when you look at the S&P 500, you can see that the oil price and the bond markets have some more impact on it, which means S&P 500 is much more impacted in this area. And for the short term, if you look at the impulse response analysis, you will see the same thing. Seeing it from here is easier. black values, and for example, this one, and this one are the responses of the, for example, oil price to oil price, Shenzhen index to Shenzhen index, but the others are in the short term somehow consumed by the market, by the asset markets. And if you look at, not with a vector correction model, but an RDL model, ARDL model for the mid-term or long term, you can see that this bell shape belongs to S&P 500 from month 1 to month 4, which is the period of tariff negotiation, which says that this model is not working correctly. There's a problem there. With these asset prices and the tariff dumping, we cannot control the S&P 500, and you can see that it is deteriorating more comparing with the other asset prices. For the Chinese financial markets, Shenzhen index, we don't see, maybe in the first month, where it was the hot topic, I will do this, I will do that to China and other things. But more or less it is between the boundaries, which means that the model is working correctly. And for bonds market and for oil price market, we see the same thing, which we can say that S&P 500 is much more affected in this tariff negotiation period, which somehow guides us that this is more than speculation, because most of the S&P 500 market is driven by 7 companies, as you know, the Magnificent 7. And those tariff negotiations and tariff news impact those tech companies very much because of the supply chain and all other customer-based stuff. And this war between China and the US much more dependent on the tech wars, AI wars, and some other economic stuff. So on the financial market side, we can see even the impact of now changing from a global economy to regionally aligned economies and their impact on the financial market, which shouldn't be underestimated, because all these negotiations, all these news has their reflection on the numbers, and you either lose money or earn money in the markets. So I think time is up, and I'm
you can take it. Please bring him to the floor. I think certainly, yes, sir.
Okay, so the tariff too is not about economics, it's about politics and trying to shape countries to the way America Trump wants to think. So how much is it actually economics as opposed to political influence?
Actually, I am an economics driven academic, so my point is like it is not about politics, it's always about economics and the money. So the causality for me is always from the other side. If you lose in economics, then you should do something political to gain it back in the short term, if you will not be able to do it in the mid or long term, because in the mid and long term, when my brother was doing his military service at 2000, he showed some strategic documents to me from Turkish military service. And it was, even in those papers, it was written that in 2000s, Chinese economy will be stronger and bigger than US economy. Last 30 years, it was written in the documents. Now, it is not, now we see that it is real. So I think that the problem is in economics, and the base of the problem is economics rather than politics.